The number of homeless people in the Bay Area is a well-known and serious problem. Less well-known is homelessness among another population, another species, cats. Holly Chenette's day job is teaching Spanish at East Side College Preparatory School in East Palo Alto, but her avocation is caring for the growing number of feral cats in the community. Consider this: one unspayed female cat can become 88,000 or more cats over a span of 5 years. As a volunteer for the Homeless Cat Network, Holly has been trapping, spaying, neutering, and fostering hundreds of cats for the last 15 years. Holly, just how big a problem are the feral cats in the cat homeless population?
They're everywhere. It's a big problem. I live and work in East Palo Alto, and so I see them all day. Yeah, and I think it's only getting worse with our housing crisis and such.
Why cats of other animals?
That's what I see where I live and work. And I love all animals. I'm not really partial to cats, but that's where I see the need. So that's where I've decided to chip in.
Well, and you work with a nonprofit that knows something about this and cares for that. Do you see that at the nonprofit?
Absolutely, yeah.
So
it's
tell me
called
about
the Homeless Cat Network, and I got connected with them, and they support all the surgeries and the vaccines and everything that we need to food. They buy lots of food, which I give to people around East Palo Alto. Yeah.
What are the biggest threats or dangers to these cats that maybe we don't know about?
Sicknesses, cars, suffering, stress from reproduction. They really don't, they're domestic animals. They really don't need to be on the streets. They suffer there. There's not enough food for them there.
Tell me a little bit more about those. Just some of the things that I don't think most people think about when they think of domestic cats.
There's an overpopulation problem, and so they need to get neutered. So the ones that are free to live on the streets reproduce, and the cycle is never ending, and it's just a lot of suffering. The kittens will grow up with upper respiratory infections, and if they're not treated, they lead to other problems.
What is the single biggest affliction that you see coming in at the Cat Network?
Probably is that the upper respiratory URI. They all come with colds, basically, bad colds, because they haven't had enough nutrition.
And are they life-threatening?
It can certainly be. It can certainly be, yeah.
What about the dangers that cats pose to humans? Do they pose any dangers? I mean, I think some people are kind of wary when they see cats.
Yes, but I think largely because they're afraid of us. They seem scary because they're afraid of us. They won't hurt a human being. They'll run from us.
So they won't scratch or spread their diseases or any such things that people might be afraid of?
The only thing I think that's transmissible is ringworm. By far the majority of the sicknesses that they have are not transmissible to human beings. Yeah.
What do you think most people just don't get about feral cats that you'd like them to know about?
Probably that they don't belong on the streets. I think we've become accustomed to it in some areas. All over the world, really, there are cats that live on the streets, and they just think that's not right. And so those communities will think that it's normal, but really there's a lot of suffering going on. If you look carefully at each individual cat, you'll notice the fleas, and the fleas cause anemia and yeah, all sorts of sicknesses that they can get.
What should we be doing, or what would you like people to be doing to help? So
what the Homeless Cat Network and I think all rescue organizations recommend as the most humane way to deal with this problem is TNR, which is trap, neuter, release. And so we trap them humanely. We get them neutered and get their basic vaccinations and flea treatment, and then we release them back where we found them. particularly, of course, if they're feral and adults. If we come across kittens or we come across tame cats, which does happen, then of course we send them into the fostering and adoption route.
That's interesting that you release them. That somehow seems counterintuitive.
It's a little bit controversial, true, but it beats the alternative. They'll never be sweet house cats, so what are you going to do with them, you know?
Well, tell me about that. Suppose I do bring in an adult feral cat, expecting it to be a sweet house cat. What happens?
I've seen it happen. My neighbor has one that lives in his home, and he never sees the animal. I mean, he does see it. I guess it has warmed up to him, and it sometimes will sit on his lap. I take care of his cats when he's on vacation, and I never see it. So it's like, what's the point, you know?
Well, so I just want to clarify, the cat won't become hostile or anything. It'll just be absent.
Just be hidden, yeah.
And so the worst that can happen is you're disappointed that you don't see your cat.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
you don't
that's
have a
not too bad.
relationship with it. Yeah.
Should people feed the cats? What should they feed them? How should they feed them? Should they turn them in? What do I do when I see one?
Thank you for the question, because yes, feeding is okay. We as rescuers love to have healthy populations, and in order to have healthy populations, they need to find food somewhere. So cat food has the basic nutrition, and that's great when residents can feed them. They can also look closely and see if maybe the cat has already had its ear tipped. The veterinarian, when they neuter them, will trim the top corner off the ear to notify everyone that it's been neutered.
Oh, now that's interesting. I bet a lot of people didn't know that.
So they can, if they can get a good description of the cat, that's helpful for us.
What should people not do, or maybe not feed them?
I know there's certain foods. You can look up a list of foods that's poisonous. If you want to give your cat your leftovers, make sure there's no onions in there, for example. Other than that, just let us know. Let us know you need help.
I'm curious, why not onions?
I don't know why onions are not good for cats. And that's not the only food, but they can't process it somehow.
How did you get started doing this?
In 2007, my husband called me saying, hey, there's a litter of kittens in our backyard of our office. And so I went and looked, and boy, were they cute. The mother was white, and the kittens were little tiny white balls of fluff, mostly white. And I went home and I researched what you do in that case, and then I met up with Nicola of the Homeless Cat Network.
And tell me what happened there.
So she came over, she came to that office and saw that I had them by then in the bathroom. And it was very easy to see that they were dirty, and that because they were white, so it was easy to see the fleas and the dirt. She grabbed each one and took it to a faucet and washed each one, and that just seemed so impressive to me that it's such a simple way to make a big difference in a cat's life.
What did that do to you?
So I was hooked. I stayed with the program. I became a volunteer just like she had been. And every year have helped a lot of cats.
I gather soon after that, a student of yours brought a cat to you. Tell me that story.
So I'm also a high school teacher in East Palo Alto, and a student brought me a little tortoiseshell kitten, very, very tiny tortoiseshells, the three-colored black and
they're fairly
brown.
rare, right?
Yeah. And this cat, she had found it practically on the street, right against the curb. Still, because it couldn't see, its eyes were matted shut. This upper respiratory infection that I'd spoken of earlier caused the eyes to be completely closed. Of course, you can fix that, Nicola guided me through. He was very weak. He had obviously been separated from his mother and
How
siblings.
big? How old?
Very tiny, probably 3 or 4 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. And it wasn't easy. He was really, or she, because three-colored cats are female. She was really close to death. So I had to give her a warm environment and some nutrition, and then she came around and then went into a foster program. So I'm sure she's in her happy home now. So.
That was your first fostering experience.
We named that cat Mila for Milagro for miracle.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Tell me about the actual process, what you go through.
From the trapping, my main job at Homeless Cat Network is trapping. I'm also a food delivery person to people who need food. So people will call me and say, hey, there's a family of cats. Can you come help? And I'll go survey the situation. You have to make a plan first. You can't just jump right in. So you have to set up neutering appointments. You have to see how many cats there are. You have to see if any of them have already been fixed by that ear-tipping observation I described earlier. And then, just talking to the people who live there as well. Just make a plan and try to get them in the best place for the cat.
So backing up to this plan, you mentioned how many cats? Are there often multiple cats on people?
Yes.
How many?
There's often a colony. Yeah.
But they don't live in colonies, do they?
They do tend to live in colonies, yeah.
I don't think of them as social animals.
I know.
Sorry.
Yeah. They tend to gravitate and then they'll keep out strange cats, but they'll make a sort of a group. Yeah.
Is that well known? I didn't know that about cats. I think of them as so solitary.
We have feeders. Homeless Cat Network has people that are feeding, and they feed colonies. So, yeah.
Really?
Maybe it's just because they're attracted to the food, so they stay around the food. Maybe that's the only reason. But then,
with respect to this plan, you also have to figure out how to trap the cat.
Right.
I've had a cat, and trapping and cats don't go easily together. How do you do it?
I know. We have humane traps, and so you put food in one end, and the cat will love the smell and go in, and then the door will close down on the cat on the other end. Doesn't hurt the cat. It does scare it. Then we are checking regularly. We come right over, we cover it with a towel, and that really calms the animal down. And then we take it off to the vet. Yeah. There are some colonies where the cats are used to the traps, and then they won't go in. They're wary, and they won't go in. That involves other...
But that does sound like it's an unpleasant experience for them if they don't want to go in again. I suppose it's worth the price to scare them.
I mean, do they want to be reproducing for the rest of their lives, or do they want to go through a night of terror?
So this night of terror involves taking them and anesthetizing them and neutering or spaying them, and then letting them. Do you think it's traumatic to them or not really?
It's better than not doing it at all.
Yeah. What do you find people don't understand about that process when you go to their house?
I think people are pretty well on board. We definitely do better when we talk to the people, when we create a relationship with the neighbors and work with them. Oftentimes people are just busy and they don't want to do it themselves, so they have us come out. Sometimes people don't know that this is a possibility. They don't know that there are local rescue groups that they can reach out to for help.
What's wrong with just having the cats come and go? They're not a nuisance. They're not like raccoons or rats or something.
Depends on who you talk to. Some people think that they're a nuisance, and you have to clean up oftentimes feces. And I think it's mostly reproduction is what we're trying to control. So that's exponential. It's just
right. Well, so one part of it is the trapping and spaying and neutering. The other part is the fostering.
Right.
How did you get into that?
Yeah, well, that's all part of the procedure. So oftentimes you will end up with either tame or kittens, either tame adults or kittens. And so the kittens, you don't want to put those back out on the street. You want to find homes for them. So that's how that happens.
So how many cats have you fostered?
Oh gosh, probably 100 over the decade.
And most of them presumably are kittens?
They start out as kittens, yeah, yeah.
Tell me what that entails and how long do you keep them and what do you have to do?
So we're always needing foster people. That entails keeping the animal or multiple animals a few weeks, more than a few weeks probably, socializing them, seeing that their basic needs are met, taking them to appointments, neutering or adoption fairs, which happen often, taking nice photos of them, having them put on Pet Finder so that they can be adopted.
You talk about socializing. What does that mean?
The more chaos in your home, the better for fostering. If you've got kids, if you've got dogs, if you've got noise, that's what we want them. We want them to be exposed to that.
Okay,
so
so they're used to chaos
yeah.
in general. Uh-huh.
Yeah, they grow up to be a great house pet.
So socializing, I guess I was thinking in terms of a couple different. I get that you're preparing them for the chaotic world, but do you try to socialize them with humans, or do you try not to get them too dependent on humans?
That too is very important. And we encourage, so oftentimes these babies will be wary of humans, so we encourage the fosterer to have baby food, chicken baby food or turkey baby food, and make friends with them through food.
So you want these cats to trust people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Unlike wild animals where you don't want them
Right.
to trust
That's
people.
true. Yeah.
And does it work, the socializing? I
They
guess?
come right around. They through food. Yeah, it works.
Now, the other piece of socializing that I think is interesting is the cat-cat relationship.
Right.
Do you work on that, or does it need work?
It does. We Homeless Cat Network encourages the adoption of 2 kittens at a time. Just for that reason, they will socialize each other as well. You've probably, maybe many people have noticed, if they've only had one cat in the house, it kind of grows up a little bit violent or a little bit crazy. And oftentimes that's because there wasn't another cat telling
That explains a lot about the cat that we had. I like to hear it.
telling it, hey, that hurts, or something like that. Yeah.
Well, I do think of cats as solitary animals, unlike dogs. And I don't think, for the most part, of best friend cats and so on. Is that because we had a solitary cat, or is that? I mean, to what extent do they bond with each other?
I think it just really varies. It really varies. If they're litter mates, if they're from different families, it can turn out any way. And in fact, there can be a good season in the relationship between 2 house cats, and then they can turn against each other, and then they can come back again. It just really varies.
So is there like a tutorial thing, like an alpha cat and a lesser cat, or not?
There may be sometimes, yes. We encourage people, if they already have a cat, say, and they want to adopt another one, we're very happy about that, but they should introduce them slowly. They should allow them to smell each other first without seeing each other, that sort of thing. Yeah.
So you blindfold them or
So
something?
you keep the new cat in a small space and let the cat that's already there walk around, and yeah.
And how successful is that?
And that works a lot better than just plunging them in together.
So there's a wonderful story in some of your literature about Winston and Winona.
Yeah.
Tell me that one.
Those 2 are now in their forever homes, but again, that was a situation where we had to trap them. One of them came very sick. He had a mite called Noto edris, which I've had a couple of cats that ended up that way. You have to treat it. You can treat it and make it go away. But yeah, now they're in their forever happy homes.
That wasn't, you're jumping to the ending. I gather it wasn't that easy to get there, was it?
I was not actually the trapper on
but
that one, but I do know that they got trapped and then fostered and neutered and.
Because there was some question about whether they were going to get along, I gather.
Oh, okay. I need. Yeah.
What would you like people in general who are cat owners, I guess, more broadly, to know? What do you want them to do?
You know, veterinary care is important. We've had instances where that URI has gotten out of hand and resulted in, you know, a worse case than it would have been if it had been treated. Veterinary care is expensive, I know that, but it's critical. And you can end up with a wonderful companion if you love the animal. So.
Why, you're a Spanish teacher. Why are you
Yes.
bringing cats into Spanish class?
Well, my students bring them to me. I've had students call me, you know, they get an idea that I'm concerned, and so they'll call and I'll go out and help for whatever animal might be suffering in their homes, in their yards. I just want them to know a part of educating them is that life is important and all lives matter, and love, you know, just love of animals and help out where you can.
They actually, you don't just talk about it. This is hands-on. You have them help you with the trapping and so forth.
I
and so on.
do. Actually, they help me feed our colony that's at school. Yeah, they help me put out food and water every day.
Have you seen any light bulbs or shifts among your students as they learn more about this?
I think that they're more concerned about neutering and spaying, and they take that home to their siblings and their families and spread the word. Yeah, they're looking out. They're letting me know where there are problems that we need to.
Are there larger, maybe ecological messages that you want to impart to your students via the cats?
Yes, this general pet overpopulation problem. Certainly want them to neuter their pets. Love of nature, love of animals. Yeah, our students can do community service in this area. So the ones that help me feed will get community service credit for doing that. So.
Was there anything in your childhood that you think set the groundwork for what you're doing?
I grew up in a large family that emphasized hiking and camping and nature, and so that's actually when I was 8, I found my cat on the street. My mom let me keep it after much begging and pleading, and yeah.
Tell me about your relationship. What cats you have now that are your own and your relationship with them?
So now I have 2 cats and a dog, and that first family of white kittens that we were talking about, well, the runt of that litter, I guess you'd call that a foster fail. It ended up staying in my home.
Failed? So, why did it fail?
Because I was fostering it and I failed. I ended up adopting it. So.
No, that's interesting. I was going to ask you that. How hard is it if you keep fostering and giving up and fostering and giving up? Isn't that hard?
It gets easier with every time. And yes, it was hard in the beginning. But it does get easier as time goes by, and then I realize, well, I'm making space in my home so that I can go out and find more, you know, and solve more problems out on the street.
This probably has never happened, and it just came to my mind. Do cats remember? So might you bump into a previously fostered cat in the street and expect it or you to remember each other?
I wonder. They probably wouldn't remember me. Yeah, that would be my guess. Yeah.
And you might not remember them because you've seen so many. What in general have you found that cats do for people and for you?
Yeah. I mean, they're such good companions. The play, the purring, the cuddling. It's a great stress reliever.
Mm-hmm. Why do you keep doing what you do?
Homeless cats keep appearing on the streets. I want to do what I can. It's a small thing, but I think it makes a big difference to the cat. So, you know, when you think that one cat, a female, can become, I don't know, the low number is like 50,000 over the course of a decade or something. the time is now. The time is now to help these animals.
What does that do for you personally?
It's really rewarding when someone wants to adopt one of the cats that we've saved, and you think how far this poor animal has come. It's a very rewarding feeling.
Well, keep up the great work. Congratulations on the award, and thanks very much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.